quote, the bellman ceased and sat apart, indistinct and silent, in the pose of a meditating Buddha. Nobody moved for a time. We have lost the first of the ebb, said the butcher, suddenly. I raised my head, that's the beaver. The offing was barred by a black bank of clouds, and the tranquil waterway seemed to lead into the heart of an immense darkness. The horror, the horror. Okay. Fit the second, the bellman's speech. My inability to draw a peach properly, I apologize for that. I'm not very happy with it. The 11th commandment of the illustrators, what they taught me in art school, I remember the very first day, if you can't draw it, put a bush in front of it. And in this case, even the bush was beyond me. There's leaves and twigs and no foliage, it's just too much. So I resorted to a peach with nectarine tendencies. Okay, in the distance we see the HMS Snark. In the foreground we see a dog named Nip, listening to his master's voice, understanding nothing since all he hears is his master's speech. And Thomas Aquinas and James Joyce rarely agreed on anything, but they did agree in believing dogs have no souls. Therefore, this drawing is proof positive that the so-called high fidelity of dogs is a mere marketing ploy. And there's a multiplicity of snarks, as you can see, like fleas on the dog's back, on his pelt. Okay, and to fit the second, what I call the indictment of the bellman. As you know, Carroll went on and on about all the bellman's problems, unrelenting attack upon his character, his morals, his finances, his fitness for public office, his ability to see Russia from his window and all this stuff. And we see him here literally bird-brained, and his crew none the wiser, apparently. They're behind him, actually. And the bird is courtesy of Constantine Brancusi's bird. The bird is in a cage, lest it fly away and poke someone in the eye. Now we come to the very famous Bellman's map, which was perfectly blank. As we all know, Holiday, the original illustrator, did draw a perfectly blank map. He did this because he had to economize on ink, because Lewis Carroll was very stingy with prepayments and fees and so forth. But in Quebec we have socialized ink supplies and free health care, and I could draw a lot of lines. And so we have here another shameless crib upon Magritte, and also a shameless attack upon the French language. I apologize. Vous êtes ici toujours. You are always here. And proof positive that there was no bellwoman, making the bellman stop and ask for directions. To the International Brotherhood of the Proletariat Snark Hunt against the capitalist butcher-running dogs. And as Comrade Lenin, the bellman can make a second auricular reiteration. He's demanding his audience's ears, so that he can procure a wax ear, with which it's long been rumored that Lenin's real ear was replaced with, the real ear being damaged and lost on his embalmed corpse. And behind them we have the sinister Comrade Van Gogh. He completes my auricular demonstration, the third time, Mark Antony, Lenin, Van Gogh. All of them power mad for a socialist vision of a snark hunt for all the classes. And their audience, the proletariat hunters of the snark, will react to all of this as expected, drinks all around, and dancing on the upper decks for the lower ranks. So, move on. And now we begin what I call the bellman's indictment of the snark. The first indictment, poor taste, meager, hollow, crisp, too tight in the waist, what have you. And I don't know why Carroll assumed you would want to eat snark. It's edible complex, maybe. Okay. The second indictment of the snark, poor eating habits, getting up late, breakfast at 5 o'clock tea, dinner the next day. Well, of course, because the snark, as we can see here, is trapped in Salvador Dali's paranoid, critical, surrealist entropy of melting watches. And of course it'll get up late. The deprived of reliable timepiece, unable to know what time of day it is at all, the snark is left with sentimental attachment to bathing machines, does nothing to improve the beauty of scenes, given the snark's sentiments are open to doubt, and therefore, when in doubt, do nothing. This is, of course, a very trite observation. It's a cliche, it's a platitude. And as such, it's a platitude worthy of another platitude, which is surrealism's most infamous and overused platitude, the chance meeting on a dissecting table with a sewing machine and an umbrella. And even surrealism has its platitude, hackneyed picture postcard moments, and this is one of them. The fifth and sixth indictments, snarks like the intestines or the Carolinas, are divided into two parts. Feathers and biting, whiskers and scratching. So the biting snarks are the goody two-shoes who brush their teeth every night, who enjoy their lime jello with their Salisbury steak, and their bites are as gentle as goldfish nibbling on a baby's bottom. The scratching snarks are entirely different. They're addicted to used woolen underwear. They're given to racetrack trickery with the ponies at the starting gate. They loathe hairnets, electrolysis, and cotton candy, and they are snarks fallen from grace. And you see here an example of the latter, consumed entirely by the itch of ambition, lost in his own private pandemonium, slouching to Sodom and Gomorrah in his mismatched post-lapsarian slippers, forked tail and second-hand wings. I've been asked about the 3 talons and the 4. 4 talons equals 7. 7 talons multiplied by 6 feet, and 6 feet being the number of feet that 3 snarks would possess, 3 snarks being necessary to prove their existence, according to the rule of 3. So 7 times 6 is 42. I don't see any problems with this argument. I have a public school education. Okay, fifth or third, the baker's tail. You may have to look carefully to see the baker's tail. It is there. Look on my snarky mighty in despair. And since this fit deals mostly with memories of the baker's childhood, I've said it in a Victorian nursery room where there's all kinds of, it's an unpleasant Boojum haunted place where children are menaced by what I call the infantile gigantism of the inanimate world, a state of angst perfectly captured by de Chirico. Here's an example of how I ripped him off there. It's a double conundrum, the snark as I, the little tortilla clouds, and the baker's tail. The background is actually taken from George Harriman's Crazy Cat.
Yay.
Wow. Okay. They 7 conundrums to guess. Okay, so what we have here is the baker being showered with muffins, ice, mustard, cress, jam, judicious advice, all of which his two-faced duenna is intercepting to sell later in a day-old half-baked goods shop, if you look carefully. Now, the conundrum. What was the conundrum? The conundrum was, of course, to guess what the conundrum was. And after great difficulty, I have discovered what the conundrum was. It was, what is it that cannot be roused by muffins, ice, mustard, cress, jam, and judicious advice? 'Tis a sleeping dog whose master shouts, obey her. I will have my little jokes. Okay. And so the baker now is boring us with tales of his dreadful childhood. Father and mother were honest, though poor. He should be running for president, but anyway. In this case, Carroll's referral to childhood in this stanza provides some therapeutic respite to the baker's Boojum anxiety complex. The baker is responding positively to authorial autosuggestion. He has infantilized both himself and his parents into an easily digestible and perfectly edible size. How does authorial autosuggestion work? Basically, the baker hears the author's narration and description as a voice inside his head. And since the baker and Carroll are the same person, these voices work both ways. Both of them believe themselves to be going through the motions of a snark hunt whilst they are composing a 540-line poem about the destiny of the snark while teaching at Oxford, or Christchurch, excuse me. Anyway, it's all child's play for Lewis Carroll, apparently. It's not schizophrenia. And finally here, beware my beamish nephew of the day, if you snark be a Boojum. We can see the baker's paranoia and Boojum angst are full-blown. many lucrative billable hours ahead for his analyst, and I think it's Carroll's master stroke to introduce paranoia, fear and loathing and dread into nonsense verse. I think it's a little unusual, actually. And the baker here is blaming society for his butchins, and his uncle is reading aloud to him a bedside story from the Children's Book of Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, Mental Disorders, 4th edition. And basically, as you know, we seek it with thimbles, with care, hunt it with forks and hope, threaten its life with railway share, charm it with smiles and soap. The Snark hunter's charm, most of whose ingredients are poised to make salad of the baker, if you look carefully. You can make the Snark the poem. It's my path according to the mind of the poem being English, speaks in rooms, at high tea, shares small beer with the mind of the Doomsday Book and the Mermaid Tavern and so forth. And so, okay, so Fit the Fourth, I set in a Victorian circus, which gives a lot of opportunity for death-defying stunts and feats of daring do and so forth. We see here the banker endorsing a blank check, which he crosses. He's inspired by Magritte's blank check. The baker, being German, is not Czech. I can't resist. And, I'm sorry, the banker. And the baker's doing a bit of music hall slapstick with a fork and a fake beard. And, what do we have here? Okay. The boots, played by Charles Darwin. And the broker, played by Eric Satie, doing their spade-throwing act with a very disinterested beaver. And here we have the barrister, Martin Heidegger, trying to appeal to the beaver's pride. We know how that went. Anyone who's ever had to endure a college course in philosophy or metaphysics will relish this simple yet effective humiliation of Martin Heidegger. And I'm happy to announce that several philosophers were injured in the production of this book. Seconds after this drawing was made, the beaver turned on Martin Heidegger and savagely mauled his left ontology. And finally, the maker of bonnets, making a novel arrangement of bows. The maker of bonnets being Friedrich Nietzsche. I had to include this photograph of Nietzsche with Salome, the infamous photograph, to show you what a brilliant career this Prussian Snark hunter could have had in the field of German nonsense literature if he had not met his own personal Buchan on the streets of Turin. And truthfully, I do not know why I put a star around the forehead of Raymond Roussel. I'm trying to remember why. There was a reason, and I've completely forgotten. It was a good reason. But anyway, that's roughly all I've finished so far. The rest of the Snark, Fit 5, the Beaver's Lesson, will be set in a classroom in Christchurch College. The Barrister's Dream will be in an open-air English garden production of Trial by Jury. The Banker's Fate will be set in an Indian bazaar during the British Raj. That should be a treat. Then The Vanishing will return to the music hall where the Snark began. And I think I have about a year left on this. Actually, it'll probably be much quicker thanks to the recession, the so-called recession, because time will weigh heavily on my hands, I suspect. And I've been shopping this around for a while, and I'll sell it eventually. And as far as what the meaning of the Snark is, as we all know, Lewis Carroll said the meaning, he didn't know what the meaning is, and I think the meaning is simply the meaning. And to illustrate the Snark is truly easy. You just simply ignore the words and just draw whatever is left. And I think it just sort of works out. So, thank you, Andrew, for inviting me. Thank you, Lewis Carroll Society. Does anyone have any
questions for our surrealist here?
Yes.
That was great. What about the boat at the very beginning when you see it sailing out? Was that a giant reed boat, or what did you have in mind?
Oh, the giant.
I think it's like it's flat, like in a.
Right, in the beginning it's like a cardboard cutout boat you would bring on stage, because I didn't show all the panels. I left a few free samples on the table back there, and if you look at them carefully, you'll see the boat slowly changes from a two-dimensional stage prop into a real boat floating on a real ocean, and they go to Snark Island that way. But it's the magic of the theater.
Any other questions? Comments? Thoughts? I see lots of intrigued gazes. I think people are saying, like, okay, I have to try to decipher that.
Do you draw this all, or computers,
Oh yeah. I do everything in pencil, and then afterwards I just go on top of it with ink, just plain old ink. It's the cheapest and easiest way to do it. I buy my ink in bulk. I buy it literally in half-gallon bottles when I can. I scan it afterwards and set it all up in cork and so forth, but it's very cost effective. Yes?
Do you anticipate that this production will be annotated in the way that you annotated it for us today, so that
Yes.
those who are not lucky enough to be in this room can
I
get all
would-
the jokes?
Yes, I would like to, if at all possible, sell it as an annotated, misannotated version is what I've been calling it.
Yeah.
Because roughly, I'm blogging it as I go along, a panel every week, usually on Wednesdays, along with commentary. And I'm generating a lot of copy, and I'm enjoying it too. Plus, I never really realized, we all know the Snark is complex, but when you go through it panel by panel, stanza by stanza, it at times blows your mind how much is in it. And also how much you can force into it and it doesn't burst. It's very, it's a circle whose circumference is infinite, whose center is everywhere. Quite true.
Did you see your blogging this?
Yes, I am.
Okay, can we get your?
The address?
I will give you my name.
The URL is just the place for Snark?
Just the place for Snark, I think, dot, was,
Blogspot.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm blogging it, and I hope to sell it with the annotations. I will self-publish it if nothing else works. Nowadays, the economies of self-publishing have made it feasible if you can't sell something to publishers, and I know there's several illustrators here in the room who have shared their tales of woe with me. And the market right now is just unbelievable. It was bad before. It's been bad for the last 5 or 6 years. But now it just seems to have frozen completely. And the gentleman, Mr. Sieska,
Jessica, yeah. John.
well, he had a good thing going there, but he had a good hook.
Yeah.
Disney Corporation, plus Mary Claire. It was all pre-existing stuff.
It's true.
And so, but other than that, if he had pitched that anywhere else, he never would have gotten to it.
Yeah, and he actually said himself the first time he tried pitching stuff, and that was some years back.
Oh, I bet he had a terrible time.
Well, he did. They
I mean, publishers don't want to hear this children's crazy fairy story. I mean, it's a little pointy head starts spinning around. I'm not going to get into publishing. Or editors.
Any other comments or questions?
I just wanted to ask, maybe you can add these photographs to the book because they add a lot to the pictures.
Yes, I agree. The problem with adding photographs to a book is I would have to pay someone.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah, actually what I thought of doing, I'd have to check with my attorney, one of my attorneys. What I was thinking of doing is just selecting a few photographs, for instance, the Salome portrait, and just re-inking it myself in the classic Victorian wood engraving style, because then it might be a fair use. And I would credit it, and I would change actually one little detail just to make it tweak. Yes.
Or is it legal to make a hot link? What are those, hot link from your blog to?
Well, I do that. I do that all the time.
Okay.
So if I refer to something that I think you may interest you, I hot link to it. Even if the people don't like me, I'll hot link to it.
Could you? That's actually an interesting idea because Brian Talbot last year with that Sunderland
Yes,
book,
Mr.
didn't
Talbot's
he drew a lot of that because he had a lot of
Mhm.
also draw other stuff in there, so he
Right,
must
just
have not gotten.
To render.
Yeah.
Yes, because recently certain people have become highly aggressive in their
Right.
pursuit of illustrators ripping them off. And fair use means that you can take an image within reason, and if you transform it within reason, you can use it as your own. For me to take a photo, this photo is out of copyright anyway, but for example, if it wasn't, for me to pop it in a book, that's not going to work, and I can't afford the fees. The fees would probably be even from a small place, $100, $200, it would kill me. If I just do it as a Victorian, fake Victorian engraving, in the same manner that like you would see in a Victorian book, I think I could probably
Anything else? All right.
Thank you so
Mahendra,
much.
thank you so much. All right, well, we are wrapping up here, folks. And some final words. First, I have a question to ask you. We had our board meeting yesterday evening, which was not unlike a Snark hunt. But we actually did accomplish some very good things. And one of the things that came up was a discussion of possible meeting location for the spring 2009. And we're going to be sending an email around via Claire, our secretary, as well. But we thought, well, you're here, let's just get some feedback. And I'd love to see just a show of hands. We are contemplating having the next meeting in Santa Fe. And the centerpiece of that would be the world premiere of a staged production of La Guida di Brazia. Well, I don't know, there's classical, a piece based on Looking Glass, a musical piece that may be part of it as well. So there's some intriguing ideas popping up in the very lively arts community, and the invite is actually coming from Jonathan Dixon, one of our own members who illustrated our version of the Snark some years back. Jonathan lives in Santa Fe and works with a theater company that has now put La Guida di Brazia on their program for next spring. So whether we're there or not, I think it's going to happen, and I think it would be kind of nifty if the Carroll Society was part of that.
Yeah, I think the earlier you can let us know, so that
Right.
we do plane tickets ahead of time.
Exactly.
You know, it's just, if it's, you know, we hear about it 6 weeks in advance, it's kind of late to.
No, we tend to try to plan things
No, I
a bit earlier than 6 weeks in advance because there's so many things go into holding a meeting. The logistics of it can be quite staggering, and certainly something like Santa Fe, we just need to make sure there are enough pieces falling into place that it's worth the trip. Other than that, I will just say once again thank you to Marvin and to Liz at the Fales for their wonderful hosting once again. Thank you to our speakers for wonderful talks, and I thought it was such a great variety of talks today. And again, up here we have the address, if you don't already have it memorized. Janet Jurist quietly, softly and suddenly vanished away to prepare for the reception afterwards. So she's already up there preparing. And this is the address. It's way on over on the east side, and people may be getting together doing a bunch of cabs or things like that, I'm not sure. But she'll be holding her usual reception afterwards for a continued conversation on Carollian and other topics. Thank you for coming, and we will keep you posted on the spring.